Professor Thameem Ushama. Welcome, Professor. Okay, here you go.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه وأجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected organizers of this international webinar on Islamophobia and anti-Islamic discourse, and also my respected panelists of this afternoon forum. Before I begin my presentation, let me thank the entire organization which has been working very hard to organize this webinar, for inviting me to share my views on particularly Islamophobia in the context of India and its effects on Muslims. I'm also very much thankful to my dear professor, mentor, Dr. Alper, who has kindly introduced me to this organization, which eventually invited me to present my views on this particular topic, which is very important because I strongly believe that some of the members of the learned audience might not have the current and contemporary scene of what is going on in the context of India. With this, the history of Islamophobia and its effects on Muslims in contemporary India are briefly discussed in my presentation today. It focuses on the Hindutva ideology that fueled India's Islamophobia. It uses qualitative content analysis to examine the writings of Hindutva ideologues, supporters, and historians, newspaper stories, and social media sharing, because mainstream media faced restrictions from reporting Islamophobic events. The paper also focuses on two prominent thinkers who serve as role models for Hindutva exponents in promoting anti-Islamic discourse and Islamophobia in India. It further highlights the surge of Islamophobia during the Indian elections in 2019 and after, and during the COVID-19 pandemic. Nowadays, India's Muslims face unparalleled agonies, challenges, difficulties, and hardships. The current situation has reached a pinnacle of pain and misery due to this Hindutva ideology that emerged in India and has been propagated by an organization known as RSS, which is committed to establishing Hindu Rashtra or Hindu Raj or Hindu state. Indeed, this organization is an extremist, nationalistic, political, ideological organization. Yes, it is different from Hinduism, as argued by India's historians. The founders and the proponents of this Hindutva ideology admired the Nazism of Hitler and the fascism of Mussolini. Hitler and his authoritarianism has greatly influenced the RSS promoters, zealots, and their allied organizations in India, thus gradually planning to apply the Hitlerian model in India in dealing with minorities, particularly Muslims. The way Hitler dealt with Jews in Germany in exterminating them, the same way is to be adopted in India in dealing with Muslims is the agenda of Hindutva ideologues. Anti-Muslim campaigns, hate speeches, stigmatization, vilification, and lynching are attributed to these Hindutva zealots. Thus, Hindutva fascists cross the line and call on militants linked with the Sangh Parivar, the allied organization of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, to exterminate Muslims. Indeed, this call is nothing secret, but instead information about it is recorded daily on social media. Let me bring one important ideologue and founder of the Hindutva ideology and Islamophobia in India. In his book, Hindutva, Who is a Hindu, which is the title of the book, published in 1923, Savarkar, the author, a leading figure in the Hindu Mahasabha, an organization, a Maharashtrian Brahmin, formalized Hindutva ideology, a doctrine of Hindu nationalism, formalized this ideology and founded it. It is an ideological construct founded on the notion that Hindus, as the descendants of the Aryans who have inhabited the subcontinent. And this book is believed to be the charter of Hindu nationalism in India. Savarkar, the key personality who promoted Islamophobia in India, believed that Hindus have the blood of the noble race, incorporated with and descended from the Vedic ancestors in their veins. Hindutva ideology, according to Savarkar, the founder, is a way of life and a state of mind founded on the Hindu cultural ethos of spirituality. It has been debated, expanded, and eventually fixed to exclude Muslims. Historians argue that his formula resulted from exogenous beliefs and impulses. According to Savarkar, Hindu, Hindustan, and Hindutva are more than just words. They allude to the history and evolution of a comprehensive civilizational endeavor that profoundly incorporates all Hindus' spiritual or religious ethos. This encompasses the Hindu race, avatars, and all realms of thought, philosophy, and praxis, an inordinately elaborate worldview. Hindutva ideology, according to Savarkar, includes Hinduism's religious relationship and social, moral, and economic dimensions woven together by territorial, familial, and cultural identities. As a result, Hindu unity is central to Savarkar's rhetoric. Since Hindu solidarity is fundamental to his agenda, he excluded Christians and Muslims. He preached that, I quote, Hindus in Hindustan are a nation and other people are communities and numerically therefore mere minorities. He believed that Hindus had formed a communal meld through assimilation, adoption, consolidation, and elimination, sharing common bonds of the fatherland and holy land. Hindutva adherents diligently defend, expand, and spread this theoretical construct to unify Hindus in India against Christians and Muslims who do not acknowledge India as their fatherland and holy land. Thus, Muslims and Christians who disagree with this viewpoint are labeled as anti-India and anti-Hindu. Sangh Parivar's religious and political leaders write and speak about this, instilling hatred for minorities and inciting friends and members to prepare and carry out pogroms. Hindu civilization, according to Savarkar, represented an Indian identity to which Muslims posed a significant threat. He overlooked Muslims' contributions to Indian culture. He also accused Muslims of swearing allegiance to Islamic sacred sites in the Middle East without referring to the Indian Hindu territory. His primary objective was to unify and solidify Hindus against Muslims. Savarkar also identified a common language, Sanskrit, called the mother of all languages by Hindu nationalists. After race, territory, and language, he acknowledged Hindu culture as the fourth criterion of national identity. He argued that India's Hindu majority must follow the traditions and evolve naturally according to blood links that reconcile the past and present, shaping the future. Here the message given is that the other communities' contributions to the development of postmodern India are disregarded, in particular Muslims. Savarkar backed anti-Jewish pogroms and praised Hitler's Nazism and Mussolini's fascism. While Hitler fostered Judophobia in Germany, Savarkar promoted Islamophobia in India, eventually posing the same solution on October 14, 1938. In 1938, when he wrote, he proposed this agenda of Islamophobia. He says, and I quote, "A nation is formed by the majority living therein. What did the Jews do in Germany? They, being a minority, were driven out from Germany." He implied that Muslims as a minority in India should be treated the same way Jews were treated in Germany. According to Savarkar, Muslims were the real enemies and not the British, because Islamic ideology posed a threat to the real nation, namely the Hindu Rashtra. And this is taken from Christopher Jeffrellet, his book entitled Hindu Nationalism. Sangh Parivar, the galaxy of organization of Islamophobia, transformed this aberrant theory into fascist politics in contemporary India, including India's current ruling party that protects the fundamentalists and extremists. Hindutva's theoretical and political proponents work together to suppress the fundamental human rights of India's minorities, particularly Muslims. Consequently, many policy initiatives are now being promoted. Let me introduce another important thinker and ideologue, and his name is Golwalkar. He is the second chief of RSS, a militant Islamophobic organization, was another prominent Hindutva ideologue who idolized Hitler's ideas, especially ethnic cleansing. He likes the word ethnic cleansing, the idea propounded by Hitler, a cruel policy used to rid Germany of Jews. He admired its political writers who concocted an ethnic definition of nationhood. Golwalkar's model is Germany. Golwalkar's model is Germany. Golwalkar wrote that to maintain the purity of race and culture, Germany had shocked the world by purging the Semitic race, the Jews. Hitler's anti-Semitism resulted in the unjustifiable annihilation of the millions of Jews. Germany has also shown how well nigh impossible it is for races and cultures with differences running to the root to be assimilated as a united whole. This is a good lesson for us to learn in Hindustan. Golwalkar says, this is a good lesson for us to learn in Hindustan and apply it. Golwalkar stressed that Muslims must either submit or leave India. Golwalkar stressed that Muslims must either submit or leave India. Alternatively, they could stay in the country, wholly subordinated to the Hindu religion, claiming nothing, deserving no privileges, much less preferential treatment, not even citizenship rights. Alternatively, they embrace the Hindu culture and language, learn to honor and revere the Hindu religion. They entertain no ideas other than those glorifying the Hindu culture and race. The vision of ethnic cleansing, let me repeat, the vision of ethnic cleansing by Hindutva proponents facilitated Hitler's model's adoption in India. Golwalkar claimed that Hindus should be proud of their Aryan superiority, claiming that Aryan Brahmins were produced from the Lord Brahma's head. As a corollary, Hindus should deal with their minorities, both Muslims and Christians, in the same way that Hitler dealt with his Jewish minority. Here is racial pride at its highest manifestation. Any political, social, or cultural theory associated with totalitarianism was and continues to be lauded by its adherents. Thus, Muslims have been portrayed as enemies of Hindu culture, traditions, myths, and religion. Modern-day authoritarian ideologues influence the Hindutva zealots. Now, let me talk about the surge of Islamophobia and 2019 elections and after. The systematic evolution of Hindutva ideology has far-reaching implications. Its century-long spread gained traction during the 2019 India's parliamentary elections. The Citizenship Amendment Act displayed discrimination against Muslims who have lived in India for centuries, contributing to the country's development and the establishment of socio-religious coexistence and harmony. Hindutva exponents constantly promote this Hindutva ideology to establish Hindu Rashtra, which is Hindu nation. They fuel anti-Muslim sentiments by orchestrating communal violence, mass demolition, and Muslim extermination. They also urge the so-called Myanmar model to be implemented. The Supreme Court verdict on the Babri Mosque, anti-Muslim policies, the Kashmir issue, the Citizenship Amendment Act, the National Register of Citizens, forcing Muslims to say Jai Sri Ram, the god of Hinduism. Hindu fascists carrying the Islamophobia flag to foreign lands, criminalization of beef vendors and eaters, uniform civil code, distribution of saffron flags to Hindu vendors to differentiate from the Muslim vendors, the Shaheen Bagh protest and Delhi violence, mass or COVID-19 reservoirs, killing Muslim corona patients, introducing new slogans like Love Jihad, Dance Jihad, Sing Jihad, and Food Jihad. Boycotting Muslim stalls, vandalization of Muslim homes and shops under cover of lockdown are the consequences of the dissemination of Hindutva ideology, Islamophobia, and anti-Islamic discourse. Some ruling party leaders used the Jamaat Tabligh Assembly held in the first week of March 2020, just before the spread of coronavirus, to characterize the occasion as both corona terrorism and Talibani crime, a one-sided declaration of sheer bias with no basis in fact. Despite this, the mainstream media shouted Corona Jihad, and the hashtag became a social media sensation. Because the untruth spread virally, it inflamed anti-Muslim sentiment among the uninformed Hindu populace, causing great concern among the innocent Muslims. The phrase Corona is coming, the phrase Corona is coming was used to describe Muslims on the streets. This stigmatization occurred, which still occurs in some places, reflecting the climax of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim propaganda in India. As a result, misinformed and naive and innocent Hindus are confused and perplexed, unsure of what to do and whom to trust. As the Babri Mosque was demolished in 1992, Hindutva fundamentally screamed, Babri Masjid is just the beginning. Kashi and Mathura are the next. And they have a list of mosques to be demolished. As a result, they now urge Hindutva zealots to disseminate that mosques were built after the temples were razed. This is also a hot topic these days. Hindutva leaders, devotees, and sympathizers have exploited the COVID-19 pandemic to demonize Muslims and raise doubts about their patriotism and loyalty to the nation. They focused on Hindutva ideologue-sponsored propaganda, denial of medical treatment, destruction of homes and shops under cover of the pandemic lockdown, calls to boycott Muslim stalls and shops, rumors that mosques are COVID-19 reservoirs, and doctor calls to murder Muslim corona patients. The climax was the recent hate speeches when Hindutva radicals and so-called clerics went too far by calling for Muslim genocide and violence against Muslims at a religious parliament known as Dharam Sansad in Sanskrit, held at Haridwar, Uttarakhand, India on 17 and 19 December 2021. This religious parliament was held just 3 or 4 months before in this particular place. What happened in that religious parliament? Hindutva ascetics and acolytes in saffron robes made inflammatory and provocative speeches. Sadhvi Annapurna, a general secretary of the Hindu Mahasabha, a militant fundamentalist extremist organization, gave an open call to kill Muslims. And I quote, I have taken this from an internet. Quote begins, if 100 of us are ready to kill 2 million of them, then we will win and make India a Hindu nation. Let me repeat. If 100 of us are ready to kill 2 million of them, that means 20 lakhs, then we will win and make India a Hindu nation. After this, no action was taken against this person and other clerics as well. Thus, 76 Supreme Court senior lawyers, the India's senior lawyers, have petitioned India's Chief Justice to come forward to file criminal charges against the terrorist Hindutva saints. Another recent anti-Muslim propaganda that has caused tension among people and Muslims is the anti-hijab campaign in Karnataka, a province, in February 2022, a month before, where Hindutva zealots dominate the ruling party. The ruling party is dominated by Hindutva zealots. The school management instantly banned Muslim girls wearing hijab from entering the building. Furthermore, the Hindutva militants publicly harassed Muslim girls. This spread to other sections of the state throughout time. And after that, a case was filed in the Karnataka High Court, and the High Court also ruled that hijab is banned. Now the Muslim organizations have gone to the Supreme Court to see what the Supreme Court what to say. The problem is the judiciary, the election commission, all these central institutions, all these democratic agencies are dominated and infiltrated by the Islamophobic elements, and that is the problem. As the virus of Islamophobia spreads rapidly, a Muslim woman came to vote in the Tamil Nadu local body elections in February 2022, just last month, was denied the right to exercise her democratic right to vote by a booth officer linked with BHP, the RSS political wing, because she had a hijab. Because she had a hijab, she was not permitted to cast her democratic right of voting in the local body election. Likewise, Islamophobia is on the surge in every nook and corner of India, which needs immediate attention by the ruling authorities. And the time is very, very short. I do not want to encroach and take the time of my respected panelists, but let me just conclude with the permission of our moderator. This is contemporary India. This is contemporary India, where India's secular democracy, secular socialist democracy is at stake. Now, in conclusion, let me say a few things based on my own observation, which may not be agreeable to my colleagues and friends in India, but this is my view. After providing brief information on the background of Islamophobia propagation for several decades, the paper stated how fascist zealots in India had used the COVID-19 pandemic to stigmatize, demonize, and persecute Muslims. My wife's sister was suffering from corona virus in the month of Ramadan last year, and she was crying and crying and crying, and she was never admitted to any hospital. Finally, she was admitted to an hospital because of the seriousness of the disease, and finally she died in the hospital. This is one example. In my own family, a few members passed away in the month of Ramadan last year because of COVID-19, and not because of COVID-19, but because they were denied proper medical treatment. This is one isolated case that I can certify and testify because it happened in my own family, but there are hundreds and thousands of cases like this in the whole of continent. So I'm in conclusion, with the permission of my respected moderator, after providing brief information on the background of Islamophobia propagation for several decades, this paper stated how the fascists in India had used the COVID-19 pandemic to stigmatize, demonize, and persecute Muslims. They deliberately cast doubt on Muslim patriotism and loyalty. This is the problem. They are now questioning the patriotism, the loyalty of India's citizens to the state, whereas India's Muslims are truly patriotic and loyal to the nation. At the same time, officials support Islamophobia and stand silent when Muslims are persecuted, murdered, and their property looted by mobs. Fabricated lies, deliberate misinformation, discriminatory boycotts, common mistreatment, medical neglect, negligence, and heroic vandals are all part of the Islamophobic propaganda by mainstream media, with official approval, all under the COVID-19 pretext. Hindutva is the ideology of this Sangh Parivar. Just one few minutes, 2 minutes with permission. Assume that Muslims in India want to resolve this issue and avoid additional humiliation. In that situation, the Muslims must unconditionally unite and unify under Allah's command, as the current state of Muslim fragmentation and lack of solidarity poses a more significant threat than Islamophobia. To me, the disunity, this disintegration of the Muslim leaders is posing a great threat than Islamophobia, because Muslim organizations, Muslim political parties, Muslim individuals are divided, allowing the enemies to win in the elections. They are not united jointly to fight for election. And it happened recently, last month, in 5 states, Muslims where there are almost majority, they had the scopes to win. They did not win because they were divided. Different Muslim organizations field candidates. Eventually, Muslim votes have been shared, and the ruling party won the election. So when Sangh Parivar groups encounter Muslims in public places, they yell, "Corona is coming." So when a Muslim is walking on a street in North India in particular, when other proponents of extremism, fundamentalism, Hindutva ideology would say, "See, Corona is coming. See, Corona is coming." And formerly friendly neighbors mock the disunited leaders. They know that Muslims are leaderless, Muslims are disunited, so they mock at us. They know that Muslims cannot be easily secured and safeguarded because there is no one strong, dynamic, committed, and sincere leadership which can fight for Muslims' cause. As Muslims live in fear and pandemic, both hostility and helplessness spread with disturbing psychological and material consequences. At the same time, hatred thrives wherever there is a lack of continuity and social integrity. With this brief conclusion, let me end my presentation with hundreds of thanks to my respected moderator and my panelists and also the learned audience. With this, I thank you all once again. Wa billahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If there are questions, I am ready to answer. Thank you very much. Now the mic is yours, respected moderator.